In this video, we're exploring the top 10 British motorcycle engines that will last forever. Engines so iconic, they didn't just power bikes, they powered dreams. From record-breaking speed demons to indestructible workhorses, these mechanical masterpieces showcase the durability, innovation, and timeless craftsmanship that made British engineering a global benchmark. Triumph Bonneville 865cc, 2001 to 2016. So, the Triumph Bonneville 865cc, the motorcycle that not only brought the retro charm of the 60s back to life, but also did so while sipping tea with a pinky raised. Between 2001 and 2016, this modern classic engine set the gold standard for what a durable motorcycle engine should be. Underneath its retro styling lay an air-cooled parallel twin 865cc heart that could pull a freight train if you gave it a chance. Okay, maybe not literally, but close enough. What made this engine so dependable? Simplicity. Triumph engineers crafted it with fewer moving parts than a high school science project, which meant there was less to go wrong. A 360-degree firing order gave it that lovely old-school thump, and with 68 horsepower on tap, it offered a balance of power and reliability. The twin carburetors were replaced with fuel injection post-2008, but Triumph disguised the injections to look like old-school carbs, proof that you can modernize without selling your soul to the technology overlords. Here's the kicker. Triumph sold over 240,000 Bonnevilles worldwide during this era. It became the go-to motorcycle for everyone from cafe racers to Sunday cruisers. The engine's bulletproof nature meant that with basic maintenance, oil changes, and valve adjustments, it could easily cross 100,000 miles without breaking a sweat. Vincent Black Shadow V-Twin 998cc, 1948 to 1955. If the Triumph Bonneville is the reliable tea-drinking gentleman, then the Vincent Black Shadow is the mysterious James Bond of the motorcycle world. Cool, fast, and entirely unapologetic. Produced between 1948 and 1955, the Black Shadow's V-Twin 998cc engine was decades ahead of its time. Back then, this motorcycle was the Ferrari of bikes, and its engine, an engineering marvel. Let's break this down. This beast of a V-twin pumped out 55 horsepower, which in the 1950s was like strapping a jet engine to a bicycle. It could hit 125 miles per hour, a speed that most cars of the era could only dream of. In fact, when Motorcycle Magazine tested it in 1948, they boldly claimed, "There's nothing on earth to compare it with." They weren't exaggerating. The engine was air-cooled, and Vincent engineers used innovative materials like aluminum to keep the weight down. The unique design meant the engine doubled as part of the bike's frame, reducing unnecessary weight. Vincent's philosophy was simple: make it fast, make it light, and make it last. And boy, did it last. Many of these engines are still running today, over 70 years later. But here's where it gets interesting. Only 1,700 Black Shadows were ever built, making this motorcycle a unicorn for collectors. Today, a Vincent Black Shadow can fetch anywhere from $100,000 to $300,000, depending on its condition. Norton Commando 850, 1973 to 1977. Enter the Norton Commando 850, the motorcycle that proved you could combine British engineering with brute force and still look elegant while doing it. Produced between 1973 and 1977, the Commando 850's engine was a refined version of the earlier 750cc power plant, and it quickly became one of the most loved and feared machines of its day. The air-cooled parallel twin engine displaced 828cc, despite being called an 850, because Norton couldn't resist rounding up, and churned out a respectable 60 horsepower. What really set this engine apart, however, was Norton's isoelastic suspension system. Now, before your eyes glaze over, let me explain. It was an anti-vibration setup that isolated the engine and gearbox from the frame, reducing the infamous vibrating parallel twin syndrome. Riders could cruise at high speeds without feeling like they were riding on a paint shaker. The Norton Commando 850 became a darling among motorcycle enthusiasts. It won Motorcycle News Machine of the Year award for 5 consecutive years, from 1968 to 1972, a streak so impressive it makes modern awards seem meaningless. Norton sold over 50,000 Commandos, but the 850 version remains the most sought after. With proper maintenance, this engine could endure endless road trips, cafe racer conversions, and even a few off-road escapades. BSA A65 650cc, 1962 to 1972. The BSA A65 650cc engine from the swingin' 60s, a decade of rock and roll, wild haircuts, and motorcycles that would rattle your bones while stealing your heart. Produced between 1962 and 1972, the A65 engine was BSA's attempt to create a sleek, modern power plant to rival Triumph's Bonneville. Did they succeed? Partially, but what's undeniable is that this engine had character, and lots of it. At its core, the A65 was an air-cooled parallel twin engine that displaced 654cc and produced around 38 to 42 horsepower. This gave it enough grunt to hit 100 miles per hour on a good day, provided you weren't facing a strong headwind. It came with unit construction, meaning the engine and gearbox shared the same casing, a step up in modernity compared to earlier BSAs. Where the A65 truly shined was in its simplicity. It had a straightforward, low-maintenance design which made it beloved by backyard mechanics. You didn't need a PhD to tear down and rebuild an A65 engine, just a wrench, some patience, and a cold pint nearby. BSA sold thousands of A65 models worldwide, and while it had its quirks, leaky gaskets anyone? The engine's durability made it a favorite for long road trips and cafe racer builds. Interestingly, BSA was once the world's largest motorcycle manufacturer, and the A65 was part of their last hurrah before financial woes knocked them out of the game. Velocette Venom 500cc, 1950 to 1970. The Velocette Venom wasn't just a motorcycle engine, it was a statement. Built between 1950 and 1970, this British marvel was a 500cc, single-cylinder beast designed to go the distance. Imagine a robust chunk of aluminum and steel that roared so fiercely it could scare away stray dogs, while looking elegant enough for a black-tie dinner. Its reputation wasn't just built on charm, though. It earned its stripes by literally conquering records. In 1961, a Velocette Venom famously hit over 100 miles per hour for 24 hours straight, earning a place in the history books. Who knew motorcycles could pull an all-nighter better than most college students? Now, let's talk numbers. During its production run, Velocette produced approximately 5,721 units of the Venom. You might think, oh, that's not a lot. But what it lacked in quantity, it made up for in sheer durability. This engine was a pushrod-operated, overhead valve single-cylinder design, simple yet timeless. The Venom's power delivery was so smooth you'd swear it was powered by buttered toast. Combine that with its 34 horsepower at 6,200 RPM, and you had a bike that could cruise all day without a hiccup. You'd think an engine from the 50s would fall apart by now, but here's the shocking bit. Most Venoms are still alive and kicking today. Owners often joke that the Venom doesn't die, it just takes naps between rides. It's no wonder that die-hard enthusiasts still race these bikes in vintage circuits, proving that this engine hasn't lost its spark, or its oil leaks. Triumph Trident 750cc, 1968 to 1975. The Triumph Trident 750cc was Triumph's answer to the 1960s motorcycle crisis. Hey, the Japanese are taking over. And oh boy, did Triumph swing back with a punch. Introduced in 1968, the Trident wasn't just another motorcycle engine. It was the first mass-produced 3-cylinder engine. Yup, Trident decided to slap an extra cylinder just to flex, creating a silky smooth 750cc powerhouse that ran like a jazz band on wheels. Here's where it gets fun. The Trident shared DNA with the BSA Rocket 3. They were like fraternal twins, same engine but with slightly different looks. It could pump out 58 horsepower, making it capable of reaching speeds close to 120 miles per hour. That was blisteringly fast for the late 60s. Forget leather jackets, you practically needed a parachute to slow down. However, Triumph wasn't the most punctual manufacturer. When Honda unveiled the CB754 in 1969, a tech marvel with 4 cylinders and electric start, the Trident looked slightly outdated. Still, enthusiasts knew better. The Trident engine had character. It wasn't just about getting from A to B, it was about enjoying the symphony of mechanical brilliance along the way. Here's an interesting fact. Triumph sold around 27,480 units of the Trident during its production run. It may not sound massive, but in a world dominated by Japanese bikes, the Trident was like a British rock star fighting for airtime, and holding its own. Royal Enfield Bullet 350cc, 1955. So, the Royal Enfield Bullet 350cc, the engine that simply refuses to die. First introduced in 1955 and still kicking around today, it's the kind of machine that laughs in the face of modern technology. Electric start? Pfft. Fuel injection? Who needs it? The Bullet runs on sheer grit and a thumping single-cylinder engine that's louder than your neighbor's leaf blower. What makes the Bullet so special? Let's start with its build quality. The 350cc pushrod single-cylinder engine produced a modest 19.8 horsepower, but it's not about raw speed. It's about the journey. Riding a Bullet is like cruising with a heart monitor, steady, rhythmic, and oddly reassuring. During its lifetime, the Bullet has achieved legendary status, particularly in India, where it became the bike of choice for soldiers, police, and adventurers. Fun fact, it holds the record for the longest production run of any motorcycle engine, a whopping 70 years and counting. It's the Chuck Norris of engines, old school, tough, and borderline indestructible. The Bullet 350's engine is so simple you could probably fix it with chewing gum and duct tape. Not that I recommend it. Owners claim that even if you forget to service it for years, it'll still fire up with a little kickstart persuasion. It's also surprisingly affordable. Even today, a brand new Bullet won't cost you an arm and a leg. That's probably why over 8 million units have been sold worldwide. If motorcycles had retirement homes, the Bullet would be sitting in a rocking chair, still running like it's 1955. Triumph Tiger 100, 1939 to 1973. So, the Triumph Tiger 100, a motorcycle engine that not only roared like a lion, but could outrun most cats on the prowl. Introduced in 1939, this 500cc parallel twin was named after its ability to hit 100 miles per hour, which was basically unheard of back then. Picture this, you're in the late 1930s, roads are bumpy, helmets are optional, and yet the Tiger 100 is thundering around like it's been shot out of a cannon. For speed junkies of the era, this engine was like discovering rock and roll before Elvis made it cool. But what made the Tiger 100's engine special? Let's break it down. Triumph used an overhead valve, OHV design, squeezing out 33 horsepower at 6,500 RPM. That may not sound like much today, but back in the day, it was enough to send eyebrows flying off foreheads. With its lightweight frame and sharp handling, the Tiger 100 was a favorite among racers, adventurers, and anyone with a taste for adrenaline. Here's where things get spicy. The Tiger 100 wasn't just fast, it was reliable. Unlike some engines that prefer sipping oil like it's fine wine, the Tiger 100's twin-cylinder setup was built to last. It became particularly famous during World War II when Triumph modified the design to create rugged military bikes. Soldiers riding Tigers became legends on two wheels, tearing through battlefields like absolute badasses. And let's not forget its racing pedigree. In 1953, a Tiger 100 set a record at the Bonneville Salt Flats, cementing its reputation as one of the fastest and most durable engines of its time. Triumph's marketing team must have thrown a party because suddenly everyone wanted a Tiger in their garage. Triumph Bonneville T120 650cc, 1959 to 1970s. Now let's talk about the Triumph Bonneville T120, an engine so iconic that its name alone makes motorcycle enthusiasts weak in the knees. Born in 1959, the Bonneville was Triumph's answer to speed demons everywhere. Named after the Bonneville Salt Flats, where Triumph set speed records in the 1950s, this engine was designed to go fast and look damn good doing it. The heart of the T120 was its 650cc parallel twin, churning out 46 horsepower at 6,500 RPM. That was enough to push the Bonneville to speeds over 110 miles per hour. Back in the 60s, this was the motorcycle equivalent of a jet engine strapped to your backside. Even Hollywood couldn't resist its charms. Steve McQueen famously rode a modified Bonneville in The Great Escape, making it a silver screen legend. But here's the kicker, this engine was more than just brawn. The T120 was smooth and reliable. Well, for a British bike. Sure, it leaked oil like a teapot with no lid, but it ran so beautifully that most owners didn't care. If you wanted to cruise down Route 66 or tear through winding back roads, the Bonneville had your back. Interesting fact, Triumph sold over 250,000 Bonnevilles during its run, making it one of the best-selling British motorcycles of all time. People couldn't get enough of its perfect mix of style, performance, and that unmistakable exhaust note. A sound so good it could make grown men cry. Today, finding an original T120 in pristine condition is like spotting a unicorn. Collectors pay a small fortune to own one, and rightly so. This engine wasn't just part of a motorcycle, it was part of history. BSA Goldstar 500cc Single, 1938 to 1963. The BSA Goldstar 500cc, the engine that turned mere mortals into motorcycle heroes. Built between 1938 and 1963, this thumping single-cylinder beast was a shining star in the world of British bikes. Why? Because the Goldstar didn't just run, it dominated. This was the motorcycle of choice for anyone looking to race, roar, or simply flex on their friends. The heart of the Goldstar was its 500cc single-cylinder engine, capable of producing 38 horsepower. Doesn't sound like much? Think again. The Goldstar weighed so little that it could rocket up to 110 miles per hour, a staggering feat for a single-cylinder engine at the time. This was thanks to its all-alloy construction and advanced tuning, which made it not only powerful, but light enough to dance through corners. Riders adored the Goldstar for its hand-built quality. Each engine was individually tested and tuned to perfection, which made owning one feel like you had a custom-built masterpiece. BSA even stamped a Gold Star onto models that hit over 100 miles per hour during testing, hence the name. Imagine buying a bike today that came with a certificate of badassery. Here's a fun fact. The Goldstar became a kingpin in clubman racing in the 1950s. If you were a young racer looking to make a name for yourself, the Goldstar was your weapon of choice. It was nimble, reliable, and had an engine note that could wake the dead. Seriously, the sound of a Goldstar at full chat is pure mechanical music. By the time production ended in 1963, the Goldstar had already etched itself into legend. Around 15,000 units were sold, but surviving examples today are worth their weight in gold, pun intended. Restorers spend thousands bringing these engines back to life, and when they fire up, it's like hearing the heartbeat of motorcycles' golden age.